See, I've lived in Metropolis most of my life, and I can't figure out how some yokel from Smallville is suddenly getting every hot story in town.
Well, Lois, the truth is I'm actually Superman in disguise, and I only pretend to be a journalist in order to hear about disasters as they happen and then squeeze you out of the byline.
You're a sick man, Kent.
You asked.
This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions. Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. I am your host, Jason Bishop, and this week we're going to be presenting you with our coverage from the Calgary Expo 2025. Trish and I got into Artist Alley. We talked to a lot of writers and artists and independent creators. And in this part one, we are going to present to you Nat Jones, Sho Uehara, Don Nguyen, Mark Russell, Dan Parent from Archie, Jim Zub currently talking about Conan, Jason Aaron and his career, and of course Dan Slott on the upcoming Superman Unlimited. So let's get right into it. All right, I am at day 4 of the Calgary Expo with Nat Jones. We're both dragging our butts a little bit, but how's it been for you so far?
Oh, it's been a good show. Calgary's always a good show. So
yeah. So when I was dropping by the booth this weekend, I saw you had the book of Nyx with Todd McFarlane Productions, which is something I didn't even know you were working on. Tell us a little bit about Black Ritual.
Oh, it's super excited about the book. It's the character Nyx, who's been around in the Spawn universe for quite a few years. I actually drew her in issues 139 through 141 of the main Spawn title like 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I talked to Todd last year, and I'm like, I'd really love to do more with Nyx. And he said, okay. So I got with Thomas Healy, who's the editor-in-chief over at McFarlane. He's also writing the book. And he and I kind of fleshed it out. And here we are. We're doing the book. And it's basically we're bringing... we know that there's magic in the Spawn universe. We know that there's the heaven and hell conflict, but we haven't really touched on as much of normal magic, like the witches and that type of thing. Right. So Nyx herself is a witch, and we're using that to really explore what kind of magic exists in the Spawn universe outside of that heaven and hell conflict that we know from the main title.
Now, is this going to be an ongoing, or is this a limited run with more to come?
Well, right now we're doing a 7-issue miniseries. Okay. We have a lot more in our minds, so hopefully we get to keep going with that. So,
okay. Yeah. I was thinking something like that when I saw Black Ritual and the Book of Nyx. Like, okay, this looks like maybe it's a setup series, give it a taste. And I've noticed the last couple of years here anyway, especially when Spawn hit 300, there's been this big expansion on the series when it kind of contracted for a while, but when it hit 300, it just seemed to explode in popularity again, opening up the universe.
Oh yeah, right now I think the Spawn universe is a really exciting place to be. You're seeing, like I said, all this expansion, these new books, exploring what else is going on in the universe outside of the normal Al Simmons basic Spawn timeline. Like with Book of Nyx, we've got a character that currently she's sitting as on the throne of hell, so she's a major player in the universe, but for many years she was gone from the title. We don't really know what happened, and that's what we're doing, is filling in those gaps to let you know how she got there.
Yeah. So after this is done, do you have more Spawn? You did say you're going to have more Book of Nyx, but what's kind of the next project, if you can even hint at it?
Well, right now we're just really focused on Book of Nyx, trying to do the best book we can and really put out the ideas we have in our head, to get that out there, get it on paper, and do it in the best possible, most exciting way we can. Other than that, we'll have to see where what comes.
Right. Well, you're actually doing double duty here at the show as well, because your clothing line is being represented at another booth. You want to talk a little bit about that and how people can get a hold of that?
Yeah, definitely. My wife and I run a clothing brand called Lewis Mayhem. We do goth, alternative, metal, that kind of stuff,
right.
And punk, the whole kind of alt fashion thing.
Right.
You can find us online at Lewis Mayhem and see, I do all of the art. My wife designs clothing. She's been the top fashion designer on Western Canada Fashion Week several times.
Oh, wow.
And so between her and I, we have a wide variety of stuff and cool stuff,
Yeah.
We're all about just kind of keeping it cool and wearing what you want.
Yeah.
You don't have to conform to the norms of society.
I'm totally with you there. All right, well, that's fantastic. Where can people look at the art of Nat Jones?
You can find me at natjones.com or on all the social media platforms pretty much.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
Have a good one, guys.
Cheers. All right, we're at Sho Uehara's booth here. An old friend from way back. You were doing your first book, Repose, but we never actually got to do an interview about it. So we'll start there. But this is your anniversary on our anniversary.
Shared anniversaries.
It is.
Yeah.
So happy anniversary to you both. And let's start with Repose, because that was your Monkey Prince book. And beautiful book. That's the first book that ever caught my eye.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that was my first real dab into doing sequential art. And for that book, and probably for other books to come, I wanted to do wordless storytelling through comics. And so, that was my dabble at how to do comics without words full force. So this idea came to me pretty quickly. I think it was I came up with the idea within the span of a couple of months, and then did production pretty much right away. So it was a really, really quick timeline. But I was excited about it because at the time it was hard for me to actually solidify a story idea. So when that occurred, I was super excited. So
how familiar were you with the Monkey King mythology?
So I've been a fan of Dragon Ball since I was a kid. Dragon Ball Z, and what people may not realize is that the main character Goku is actually inspired by the Monkey King from Chinese mythology, Sun Wukong.
Okay.
And so that was my first foray into the character, and then I did more research about the Monkey King and sort of the lore behind that. And I think the one book was called Journey to the West, and it involved a bunch of really unique characters. Main character being Sun Wukong, who basically challenges the gods, kind of for not necessarily for the throne, but to challenge them and to challenge their authority. And so that really kind of appealed to me, that kind of rebellious character type.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to do something with the Monkey King, and I was fascinated at the time with the mythology of Pandora and Pandora's box. And so I thought, why not mix a little bit of Chinese mythology with is Pandora Greek mythology, yes, and see what happens there, because I think the story with Pandora is that when she opens the box she unleashes evil, essentially, right? And I kind of wanted to do something with that, with the Monkey King being the one to help Pandora with evil, to put it back into its box, so to speak. So it's wild. I'm not exactly sure how I came up with that idea. I just knew that I wanted to clash those two mythologies together on some level, and I'm just kind of taking.
Has that kind of mythology mashing inspired you for some of your other stories here? Because just some of the covers feel like maybe literature or mythologies inspired some of these other new graphic novels.
Yeah, I think so. For example, I've been trying to delve into my own, my dad and my mom's heritage a bit more. My dad being from Okinawa, Japan, and my mom being from the Philippines. And so we went actually on a trip to the Philippines like last year, or not the Philippines, Okinawa last year in Japan. And I've been wanting to reconnect with those roots a bit more. So I'm collecting a little bit of those like histories and the heritage and like the mythologies behind like Okinawan culture, for example, and trying to like see where I can infuse that into my own work. So I'll have like these little creatures here that I got from Okinawa. They're like these little statue creatures called shisa, and they always come in pairs. And the idea behind these figures is you'll see this in Okinawa too. All these households have these where they're supposed to protect the house or protect your home from evil spirits. And they all come in different shapes and sizes and different designs, and they could be menacing looking and gnarly and scary, and they could be also be like bubbly and super like friendly and whimsical.
Yeah, I saw those actually on the booth, and they looked like you painted them because they kind of have your touch to them.
Yeah, I wanted to like it definitely spoke to me when I saw those two figures in Okinawa, and so I made sure to bring those back here because it really felt like, oh, that's very much me somehow.
It sure is.
It has like a whimsy.
And I'm going to say they probably work because you have the best circulation of air in the whole building right here. So, for sure. Okay, tell me about Bonehead Whale. It kind of looks like a young reader friendly book, maybe a version of the old Melville tale.
Oh yeah, well this is an educational book. Yeah, a series of educational books by Inhabit Education. They're called now.
Okay.
And it's a series called Animals Illustrated. And quite a few years ago now, I did the illustrations for their bowhead whale.
Yep.
But they do a whole line of different animals as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's part of the north, the very north part of Canada, like Nunavut or Iqaluit area. Yeah.
I'm going to say like almost everything here is probably all ages friendly, just by kind of a casual glance. Showbot Dreams looks fantastic. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, thanks. Yeah, Showbot Dreams is like basically it's an art book, a collection of illustrations that I've done for the past year and a bit, where I've been dabbling with traditional media like markers, pencil crayons, Poscas, pen and ink, India ink, and like I really wanted to go back to like sort of more tactile artwork because like we're living in a very digital age, and I do find myself like a lot of my freelance work and doing comics, I tend to do things digitally. So I wanted to make sure that there was a balance, and so I also had a whole bunch of characters in my sketchbook that never really saw the light of day because I'm always looking for stories to write and to draw, and so I wanted to give those characters a second life, and that's why I created these illustrations, was to like still illustrate these unique characters and have them displayed on some level, and also collect them into an art book. I've been wanting to do an art book for a long time, so this is my first sort of foray into doing that as well. So that's what Showbot Dreams is. It's a collection of artwork. Yeah.
You've got, it looks really cute, El Chupacabra, but El being the first name, Ellie.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, El Chupacabra is a webcomic comic strip series that Chad Colpitz writes, and I illustrate for him. And it's about a little girl that is an El Chupacabra, and her best friend is Billy the Goat. And not only is Billy the Goat her best friend, he's kind of also the source of her sustenance, because the lore behind El Chupacabras is that they need blood to survive. And so she, let's say, borrows blood from Billy to sustain herself in unique and interesting ways. So it's definitely a unique relationship there. Yeah.
There's a more interesting one. It looks like it might be a little more serious. Why Faith?
Oh yeah, that Why Faith was an anthology that Chad Colpitz and I had a story for as well, and so that anthology explores the concept of faith in all various types of religion, and but for Chad Colpitz and I, since we're kind of like more on the funny and whimsical side, our approach to a story in there was taking kind of a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy kind of story, and kind of going like, what if God was like an alien who was like a blue-collar worker, and his task was to create the Earth in like 7 days, and so it's not exactly the most like, refined and most like glamorous job for him. It's just another day at work.
Right.
And so that was kind of our approach to the creation story there, sort of our take on something somewhat related to faith.
Right. Now, the thing that stands out the most on this table isn't just the artwork, but you apparently want people to talk about K-pop with you.
Yes. I have my wife to thank for that, but also she's introduced me to the world of K-pop, yes.
Which is a good segue, because she has a zine and I'm not letting her off the hook on their anniversary. So, last call.
So this is a zine all about final girls and cocktail recipes that go along with them. So final girls in particular being kind of the women who survive the horror films or who last till the end. So we collaborated on this with a couple friends, and I got to do two characters. I got to do Laurie from Halloween and oh my gosh, why am I blanking on names? Ripley from Aliens. Yeah, and it was awesome. So we got to look up cocktail recipes that tried to kind of represented them. I think I did find one called the Face Hugger for Ripley as well, and got to do kind of some collage work. Is probably where I would have artistic kind of interest. So doing collage.
I totally found the adult at the table. So, like, what's the strongest drink in this thing?
Ooh, that's a good question. I haven't made many of them, but now that you mention it, I really should go through and have a look at it. I would personally, I think the ones that I did were kind of tasty sounding. I mean, it'd be far from me to choose a drink that I wouldn't even drink myself. So the Face Hugger in particular, but there was also Jack-o'-lantern, which sounded kind of nice because it had kind of that orange Grand Marnier taste to it that I would be very, very, very into. So, yeah.
Okay, favorite K-pop band, because I have to indulge you.
Totally, we will plug SHINee in this household. That is one of our favorites. They've been around for 16 years, so they're not new to this. And yeah, they're just very, very, very talented people making extremely talented, music. And
very handsome men.
They're also handsome.
I'm not even sure I could name one. Black Milk, maybe, or something.
Yeah,
Blackpink?
Yep.
Blackpink.
Yeah.
I think I've seen them on a late night show or something.
I think my biggest plug about K-pop is that you have to approach it like it's a professional sports team. So there's coaches, there's trainers, there's assistant coaches, therapists, fans and whatnot, and then these people are scouted and chosen to play very specific roles in a group. So it's not necessarily what we're used to in kind of the Western world. We're used to things that are a little bit more organic, but because of the way that they approach it, you really do get extremely high quality performances.
Fantastic. Well, that's a great place to end. Happy anniversary too, and thank you for being on our anniversary show.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Happy anniversary all around.
450 episodes. I'm glad to have you on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. It's Trish, your Cub reporter, Trish Coffin here at the Comic Expo with Don Nguyen, all the way from LA.
Hi, Trish. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. So, what are you here promoting?
I am here as a guest of Calgary Expo, and I'm here just to promote artwork and all the stuff that I've been honored to be a part of. I've been in over 20 Kickstarter campaigns. Some people know me from doing Inktober. Some people know me from doing a design for Punisher co-creator Jerry Conway. And I do a lot of sketch cards for all the major companies. So I work on Marvel, Nickelodeon, and Star Wars for Tops, and I do Marvel and DC for Upper Deck.
Excellent. That's awesome. You have quite a variety of stuff here. And you also there is a 3D book you can get here.
Yes, I do have a 3D book that just came out. It's Nightmare Theater 3D. It's from Bloodline Comics. They do a ton of fantastic comics, and they recently just successfully funded a comic called Carmilla, Unbound 1984. I don't know if all of you guys know out there that there's a lesbian vampire that predates Dracula in French literature by like 27 years.
Yeah, she's been done so many times. She's equivalent to Dracula in film.
Yeah, so I was honored to be a part of the first volume, which was called Unbound 1973, and I did a Clockwork Orange homage for that book. And then this last campaign, they successfully funded, I think, over $20,000. And the cover I did for that is for Miami Vice 1984, so it's a Miami Vice homage.
I love that. Best soundtrack ever, just FYI. Yeah, but we also have some lovely stickers that we're looking at, and you also have scan codes here where people can go to a site and they can get all their they can get your stuff on things.
Yes. So I have QR codes for my website, for my shirt site on Bonfire, and then you can pick up any of my books, get commissions. Feel free to find me online. I'm super easy to find. I have the most common Vietnamese last name. It's spelled Nguyen. Add an INGIT, and I'm winning it on all social media platforms.
That's excellent. This has been fantastic. And there's so many. Oh, there's Holiday Spirits. Pick up Holiday Spirits, horror comic, and just the fantasticness that it is this booth. If I could show you visually, I would do it, everybody.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming by. Yeah, we have a lot of great stuff on the table, including the very first Inktober project to take all 31 of Jake Parker's prompts and go beginning to end his complete story, all the way up to my very own comic, Pablo the Gorilla, which is about an albino cyborg gorilla that delivers pizza, and it features a variant cover done by two-time Eisner winner, and not related to me, Dustin Nguyen, who's just one of the best creators on the planet, and I love him so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming by.
Your small payment will reap great benefits if you listen to these words of wisdom from the all-knowing Zoltar. The best place to find a helping hand is at the end of your arm. Yes, you must work for happiness. So go on, take your two hands, get some money out of your pocket, and let Zoltar tell you more.
All right, back at Calgary Expo with Mark Russell, who's done all sorts of great books, Superman Space Age, Batman The Dark Age, both kind of follow-ups, Fantastic Four as well, plus a lot of things you may not have heard of, and we're going to talk about some of those with Mark Russell right now.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so the one thing I've kind of noticed about your writing style is you don't take a very contemporary look at superheroes. You have a very offbeat way of looking at these books, and I kind of love that, like with Fantastic Four, Life Story, and they always seem to make a real impact with the audience reading them.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I like to think about what's important about each hero in and of themselves, or what kind of person they would be, or what I would be if I had that power set. So I try not to think of them in terms of a mood or what's hot right now. I try to think of them more like, what would that do to me as a person if I had their powers and their background, or what is about this person that I really think is interesting. And it's usually not their powers, it's usually their personality.
See, now that I love that approach to storytelling, like this focus on character rather than who they're smashing in the face.
Yeah, no, what I aspire to not write is like professional wrestling, where it's just like, well, who have we not fought against lately and who have we not teamed up with lately, but rather more kind of what you said, the character based. It's like, what would this do to me to be in this person's situation?
Yeah, like for one of my favorite Superman stories was Superman for All Seasons, and Fantastic Four Life Story kind of gave me that same vibe, and neither one of those are really those superhero smash 'em ups.
Yeah, really, the fight scenes, I think, are almost usually the least interesting part of the comic. What's interesting in the comic is where somebody learns something about themselves or about the people around them they never knew before.
Yeah.
And so I think it's the discovery of the implications of what they are doing that is fascinating story fodder to me, not just like the ability to throw somebody through a building, which they've had, for the last 300 issues anyway.
Yeah. Now, you worked for a lot of publishers, La Jolla, Blaze. I'll be embarrassed, I haven't read all of it, obviously, but I do what I can, including a weird take, actually, on, now that I'm looking at the Flintstones volume, and that was of this weird time where DC got to do little, somewhat realistic takes on these Hanna-Barbera characters. How'd that even come about, really?
Well, it was lucky for me because that's sort of what made my career, working with the Hanna-Barbera stuff when DC had the rights. And I don't know how they got the rights to it other than the fact that Warner Brothers owns both DC and Hanna-Barbera. But I think that it was really helpful for good story writing because DC wanted to make interesting Hanna-Barbera comics, but they also weren't very worried about what happened to the characters because it wasn't Superman, it wasn't Batman. You know, Hanna-Barbera was kind of the rented car, so they were a little more generous in letting an unknown like me or letting people like drive them in a dangerous way because they felt, well, in the end of the day, it's somebody else's car.
I'll be honest, I still don't know how any of that got off the ground, but I mean, you got nominated for an Eisner for Exit Stage Left, the Snagglepuss book.
Yeah, I got nominated a couple nominations for that and for the Flintstones, and I think part of the reason why was because everybody was expecting the Hanna-Barbera books to be sort of this tasteful homage to the cartoons or to be just like the cartoons, and so when people took real chances with those Hanna-Barbera titles, it surprised people, and I wasn't the only one, but I think a lot of the people who were writing those Hanna-Barbera comics realized that you can use them as cultural templates to tell exciting stories that you never would have imagined would have happened in the universe of like the Flintstones or Snagglepuss or Johnny Quest.
Yeah, I mean, they were a really unique bunch of books, and I don't know, the history will look back on there going, what the hell, and I'm glad they exist. You know, they're so cool. Now, let's talk a bit about some of the stuff I haven't read. What's Billionaire Island?
Billionaire Island is a story set in the near future where knowing that the world is coming to an end, a group of billionaires build like an artificial island in the Gulf of Mexico to escape the end of the world that they have created. So the idea is that they will wait it out on this artificial island, and while the rest of humanity sort of devours itself. But they haven't got to the point where it's the end of the world yet. They're planning on like waiting out there, but it's kind of about how it's not apocalyptic. It's before the apocalypse, so it's more about like a reporter going to the island to interview them, and another guy coming there to look for revenge, and about them realizing that there really is no escaping the world. You like it or not, you're part of the world you're destroying.
And what people don't know is the apocalypse just happened while we were doing this interview, and life imitates art. No, and you got another Blaze book here, Traveling to Mars, and that seems fairly topical with all the discussion of going to Mars and what billionaire is going to fund that. But what's that one about?
It's about the first manned mission to Mars, and in this story, the person who they send to Mars is a terminally ill man, because it's so much cheaper to send someone to Mars if you don't have to actually bring them back. So he signs a contract to get it, so they'll give his next of kin a bunch of money, and then he's willing to go on a one-way trip to Mars and just die there, so he can claim the mineral wealth on the planet for the company that's sending him to Mars. But it's largely about his like sense of regret and the things he feels like he left undone on Earth when he left, and he leaves feeling like he's failed. He leaves feeling like he's a failure because he was just a pet store manager, and he left a lot of things undone on Earth. But his company, when he's on board the ship, are a couple of Mars rovers who are powered by artificial intelligence and are actually sort of sentient beings. And to them, he's like a god, because this is the only human being they've ever met, and they think he has all the answers to life because they've just been activated on board this spaceship to Mars, and so to them he's like the creator.
Okay, that that's got me hooked. I love that idea. Now, when you pick a publisher, like Blaze is more known for European books. Like, how did that deal even come about?
Yeah, Blaze does a lot of like European, and they do like some manga. But I think they just really like the story. And Studio Rancia, which is actually in Italy, has some connections with them. And Studio Rancia put it together, paired me with Roberto Melli, the artist, and got the deal with Blaze. So it was sort of an international effort just to get this book off the ground. But I think they just really liked how out of the box the story felt, about how it did not feel like a normal sort of comic book, especially like a space-faring comic book.
Yeah, and again, which has these heavy sci-fi themes, it's a very personal story, and I really like that about the style of these books. Now, Second Coming seems to be very aptly titled, because I remember this when it was a Vertigo book. So what happened there, and how did it land at Ahoy?
Well, it was at Vertigo initially, and then there was like some sort of like uproar about the fact that we were doing a comic book about Jesus Christ. And at the time when it was announced, there wasn't really much, interest or outrage over it. And I thought, I can understand why people would be upset, but if they just give it a chance, they just read it, they'll see it's not what they think it is. And but of course, in comics, unlike writing books, people won't wait till they've read the comic to decide whether or not they've hated it. So there was a lot of like online petitions, and people like calling upon DC to drop the comic. And they asked me politely if I would mind taking it somewhere else, because I think the heat got a little too hot in the kitchen. And I really didn't mind, because I was surprised that they approved this to begin with. And so I took it to Ahoy, and everything that made it sort of too hot to handle for DC made it really attractive to Ahoy. The publicity, the notoriety, all worked in Ahoy's favor because they were a brand new company.
Right.
And so we got to make the comic that we wanted to make. And I think once it came out, people saw it wasn't what people were telling him it was. Once people had a chance to read it for themselves, all the controversy just sort of evaporated. And I got paid twice.
Well, there you go. There's that as well. And you've had follow-up volumes of this, so you got more of that coming still?
Yeah, no, I've just finished writing the 4th volume of it, and Leonard Kirk is working on the art, so it'll be a 4th volume out, and we're planning to do at least 5.
Yeah, good guy, Leonard. I've had the pleasure as well. Wonderful stuff. I see Patton Oswalt did the intro to that, and good connection to Hollywood. Now, do you have any of this stuff in the burner for Hollywood?
Yeah, actually, Second Coming is one of the things that there's a production company that's shopping it around. We have a shopping agreement, and so hopefully that will get made into a TV show. There's also talk about maybe Traveling to Mars movie.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, there's got a few irons in the fire. Of course, Hollywood, you can't really count on anything happening until you start getting the money, until the checks start rolling out, until the cameras start actually rolling. But it's nice to know that people are thinking about these books.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Pie in the Sky, you got...
It goes from being pie in the sky to like pie on the roof to pie in the mouth.
Yeah.
Right now it's pie on the roof. So
now, ideally, just in your own head, who would you cast for these things?
Gosh, you know what? I would love. I think Roberto Melli, when he was drawing Traveling to Mars, I think in his mind he had Matthew McConaughey, like in that role. I think Roy, the guy, looks sort of like Matthew McConaughey with like longer hair, and so I think he would be fantastic for
I seem to remember him doing a Mars movie like 20 years ago, so maybe that was in the back of his brain. Yeah. What about like Second Coming? Who would you have play Jesus?
Oh man, that's a hard one. I think maybe Jesus, Austin Butler. I'm going to say Austin Butler. I think it'd be a stellar Jesus.
That's a cool idea. All right, well, thank you for talking to us. This has been a good conversation. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Calgary and the show.
Oh, thank you. It's been wonderful.
Perfect.
Hello, invaders. This is Trish Coughlin, your Cub reporter, and I'm here with Dan Parent, so I can fangirl quite a bit here. How are you doing today?
I'm good, doing well.
Yes, excellent. So we were talking to you yesterday, and you're mostly known for the Archie comics, but you've been expanding a bit into different areas. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, well, I have my own series, Die Kitty Die, which I've done, created through Kickstarter. I've done 4 series of that, hoping to get another one out pretty soon. And I'm also doing a lot of variant covers for Dynamite, doing some Vampirella stuff, doing a lot of Ninja Turtles variants. And just keeping busy with a lot of whatever companies want me to do something special. I did a couple Marvel covers for the first time this month. I did a Spider-Man cover and a Carnage cover. So I enjoy the variety.
Excellent. And how's it been at the expo so far?
Great. I mean, Thursday and Friday were really busy. So I imagine today is going to be even crazier. So it's been really good.
And you did a couple of sketch battles, didn't you already?
I did a sketch battle yesterday, yeah, that was fun. I had to draw Wonder Woman as a dragon.
Ooh.
And then myself as a little anime character, like a Hello Kitty kind of character. So that was interesting. But the sketch duels are always fun. We really enjoy doing those, and because the fans get really involved in it, which is fun.
Excellent. Is there anything else that's like tickling your brain right now that you're excited to talk about for?
Is there something?
Sorry.
I'm trying to think if there is. There might be, but I'm probably not registering it. But
oh, okay. Oh yes, that's why I was. The Archie crossovers.
Yes, we're doing Archie meets Jay and Silent Bob is coming out in July, and we're doing that, and there's a couple other ones that are in the works, so just stay tuned for those. But right now, I would say focus on the Archie and Jay and Silent Bob, which comes out in a few months. I'm doing a lot of variant covers for that book. So.
Excellent. And that's being written by?
Kevin Smith is writing that. Fernando Ruiz is drawing it. He's doing the interiors. And I'm doing several covers, and there's also a lot of other variant covers on the book, too, that a lot of different artists are doing. A couple artists that are here, I think, maybe, are doing some variant covers for that.
Excellent. And from what you said, I believe yesterday, it's going to be more adult of an Archie comic.
It is. From what I've read, it's kind of R-rated, so just beware. just be, maybe not let your 5 and 8 year olds read it, but it's probably good for teenagers and up.
Yeah, this isn't your childhood, Archie.
Not quite, but
That's what you're saying. Well, that's been wonderful. I'm looking at your table, and it's absolutely amazing. And honestly, you shaped my entire childhood.
Oh wow, you poor thing, you poor child.
No, it's very good.
No, I'm happy that I hear that a lot. It's good. That's why we like working on comics and Archie especially, because we like to influence kids and give them something good to read, and hopefully encourage them to either read more or get into art. And kind of get into comics. So it's all good.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so very much for chatting with us. And hope to chat with you again for sure.
Sounds
at
good.
Another time. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Okay. Oh, and where can they find you social media wise?
You can go to my website. It's danparent.com, which is pretty easy. And then on Instagram, it's Parent Daniel. And I think that's my Blue Sky handle too, is Parent Daniel.
Excellent. All right. So keep these spaces open and keep looking for Dan.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
You may have heard this, but Zoltar is here to tell you you can believe it. Age is simply a matter of mind. If you don't mind, then my friend, it doesn't matter. So go on, be carefree like a little baby. But first, give Zoltar a little money, and I will give you a fortune.
Where do you want to go?
All right, I am sitting here with Jim Zub at his booth, and he's been a mainstay at the Calgary Expo for many, many years, and gone from Udon to Marvel to DC to Titan and all the stops in
all
between.
Places in between, it's true.
Right.
Yeah.
You've been working really hard on Conan for the last few years.
Yes.
But you started writing Conan at Marvel, and then moved over to Titan. How the heck did you even manage to do that?
I ask myself that same question. So I got the chance, the first time I wrote Conan was actually at Dark Horse. So Gail Simone and I did the Conan Red Sonja crossover miniseries in 2016, and that was a real joy. And I thought that would be my only chance to ever write, the world's most famous sword and sorcery character. And then when the character returned to Marvel, I was doing stuff in the Avengers office, and Tom Brevoort was like, we had just done a successful Avengers event called No Surrender, and we were going to do a sequel. And he said, I want Conan to be part of the event. And both Al Ewing and Mark Waid were like, well, Jim's the Conan guy. So I wrote the vast majority of the Conan stuff that was in there. And then Jason took over the flagship series, and I thought, well, I'll never get to touch it because Jason does long runs on books, and that's great. But lo and behold, what I didn't know is he only had 12 issues he was going to do. So almost immediately they were on the hunt for a writer. I did a short story, well, not short, but I did in the anthology Savage Sword right at the perfect time when they were on the hunt for a writer. The rights holders thought it was really good, and then they suggested me. But my first regular monthly issue of Conan came out a month before lockdowns, and so my run at Marvel was sort of plagued by the COVID pandemic, and understandably everyone having more important things on their mind than buying comics. And so the series sort of limped along and then ended there, and I thought that'll be my last chance to ever write our favorite Sumerian. But the rights holders they thought I had the voice, and they thought I had good ideas, and so they said, ostensibly stay in touch, which is what everyone says. And so I took that as a polite, nice thing to do. But they were serious when they decided they were going to partner with Titan. They decided they were going to take this new publishing approach and kind of come at it from the ground up, and they were taking pitches. And so I was involved in what we call in the industry a bake-off, so multiple writers pitching to do a property. And I wasn't going to do it because I thought there's no way in a million years I'll get to do it again. I just did it at Marvel, and my wife actually kind of guilted me in a good way, and I said, I'm not going to pitch because I'll never get it. And she goes, well, not with an attitude like that. And so she goes, pitch with your full heart or not at all. And I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose, literally. And so I went in there and sort of wrote one of the weirdest pitches I've ever written, which is very much like, here's what I've learned about Conan over the years. Here's what I think the property might be missing. Here's some things to keep in mind. And here's what I would love to see in the future. Wishing you all the best. And it had more of an attitude of almost like a eulogy, like, it ain't going to be me, but good luck to the next team. And I was really at peace with it. I got it done. I sent it in, and I was like, that's what I needed to say. And I never got a chance to sort of do it, but it's not mine anymore, and it never was. And these properties are not yours. And I sent it off, and I was guilt-free, and a weight lifted off my shoulders. And then about 4 or 5 weeks later, Fred Malmberg, the head of the Conan group, called me up, and they told me I was still the guy. And I could not believe it. I was absolutely gobsmacked. They said they felt, they in the office, they had taken all the names off all the pitches and they had read them internally, and he knew who did what, but no one else did. And he said, yours just blew us away, And he said, we're looking for a long-term creative partner, and we think it's still you. And we've relaunched Conan in 2023, and I've been on ever since. And it's without trying to sound too dramatic, it's been incredibly vindicating to have the fan base come out in droves for the new series. It's the biggest book Titan's ever done. It's one of the biggest books I've ever done. And it's not because there's a movie coming out. It's not because there's an animated show. It's not because of a video game. And people are talking about Conan because of our book, and I could not be more proud.
Well, I can tell you from a retailer standpoint, it was the right team at the right time, because for us, and I'm not going to put this on every store, before, but it outsold Marvel's run.
Thank you.
When they launched it with a big team.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
huge team.
Right.
And here you got Roberto Delator, who's like somehow melded his style to be John Buscema and Frank Frazetta at the same
with
time.
The side of Hal Foster.
And it's absolutely.
It is the most. Everyone on the team is so electrified. You know, Doug Braithwaite and Rob Delator are our art teams. Like, what an incredible 1-2 punch. I feel so fortunate. None of this would have worked without those art teams. I could have written the best damn story possible, but without the vision to back it up in terms of that art, we would not have made the splash that we made. I know that as a fact. And so I am so thankful and fortunate that we were able to cast the teams that they were at top of our list, you know, and then they delivered on every single front. And the camaraderie that we have, the joy that we have discussing and planning, knowing that I've got this amazing ability to tell long-term stories and pay them off. They promised me 12 issues no matter what, because we didn't know how well it was going to do. And by issue 3, God, we had 6 printings of issue 1, 3 printings of issue 2 and 3. And so then it was like, okay, we know you have a long-term plan, let's lock it down. And so now I'm signed on for a 50-issue run. Issue 20 just came out, so I'll be on Conan through 2027. And to say that, like, I know, I was talking to Zdarsky about this, and he said, you know, there are going to be longer runs on books, but rarely do you know ahead of time it's going to be that long. So normally every 6 or 10 months you're looking over your shoulder like, is it my time? Are they taking me away? Is this the gong show and I'm off, you know? But I know I'm on, and so we can do these extremely long, mythic, foreshadowing plans and then pay them off. Make the immediate adventure very vibrant, but then also sprinkle in the seeds of these future stories that I know I'm going to get to, and they're going to hopefully land with the kind of impact that I want, but I don't have to worry about, are we going to get canceled and just have to, you know, kill it on the vine, which is a rare thing indeed in this industry, and I certainly don't take it for granted.
Yeah, I mean, for example, you seeded the Black Zone stuff right from issue 1.
The start. The arrival of Zula last month was originally seeded in issue 8, so we did a quick flashback where we said that Conan traveled through the Black Kingdoms and met a shape changer, and we didn't say who that was, but it was like the plan was Zula was going to come back. You know, all these things. Issue 1, we show Conan carrying this bear on his back, and we talk about the fact that he was trying to find a challenge that could stop him, and nothing could. And then we show that bear hunt in issue 13. So it's like a year later, boom, it drops just like that. So those are the kinds of things that you, as a writer, it's the stuff you want to do. It's the stuff you want to please your readers. You want to please yourself. You want to make and build foundations that are strong and then work with them. And the current market has been so tumultuous that you don't get to do that very often.
Well, I never thought I'd say the day that Conan was selling Batman numbers, but here we are. We are at that.
It's crazy, stage. Right? And I the fan base, it was so funny being like, I would get these messages from New York Comic Con. We have like 3 issues out, and I got 4 or 5 of these guys who come over who are old enough to be my dad, and they say, I've been collecting since the 70s. I feel like I'm 15 again. This book is really doing it for me, and it's very heartfelt. You just can't believe it. By the time Emerald City rolled around in March, so that's November, December, January, February, March, 4 months later, I got 50 of those people coming to my table, and one after another. I collected in the 70s. I hadn't collected in 20 years. I'm back. Every month I'm at the comic shop. I've got a pull file for the first time in 20 years. Retailers coming in saying, we used to have old Marvel Conan books in the quarter bin. We're moving collections again. Savage Sword is a hot book. Like, what is going on? It feels really, really special. And I am so fortunate and so thankful to the fans and to retailers and to Titan and to Heroic Signatures that they have all of it's kind of come together alchemically to make it happen.
Is there a different approach to what you do from Marvel versus Titan? Have they loosened the strings of, say...
It's different. It's a mature reader's book, which Marvel was just not going to be able to do under their publishing auspice, and that's fine. I knew that going into it when I was writing it at Marvel. They also, and this is not against Marvel. I love those guys, and I loved working on the book there, but they've got to handle 70 to 80 books a month. Heroic Signatures are the owners of the Robert E. Howard Character Library, and Conan is their flagship character. He's their number one priority. So every meeting is about how can we make the best Conan we can. No offense, I'm not competing with Spider-Man. I'm not competing. In their minds, this is the book. This is their Batman. This is their Spider-Man. This is their Avengers, whatever you want to call it. And so when we talk about planning, it's what can we put all the muscle, all the best of our efforts behind this property to keep it vibrant and what may have you. And in Titan, we're their flagship book now. So same kind of thing. We're leading the charge for their publishing line. So we get all the benefits of that in a way that you're just never going to be able to get unless you're writing Amazing Spider-Man or you're writing Batman at DC, right? And so it is different. The meetings you can have, and I've got a free comic book day book every year. That is an incredible platform to remind people on a yearly basis, check out what's happening in the Hyborian Age. This is going to knock you out.
Speaking of, a week from this recording, free comic book day, a new book. Is this going to launch another event like
Absolutely.
Blackstone?
That's been the successful pattern. So Battle of the Blackstone, Jonas did a phenomenal job on that book, Jonas Scharf. Now Ivan Gill, he's been in the European market for years. He's been doing these incredible bande dessinée, the French oversized graphic novels, and his work knocked me out. He was doing these Napoleonic War graphic novels, and I wanted him in the Hyborian Age, so we scooped him up, and he's doing Scourge of the Serpent for us. The book comes out September, miniseries just like Blackstone. He's already finishing issue 2.
Is this Solomon Kane book coming out right now tied to that?
It's the year of the snake, right? Scourge of the Serpent, and then the Solomon Kane book is the Serpent Ring. Patch Zerker is so passionate about Solomon Kane, and he's putting his all. Have you seen that book? It is just a stunner. Like, he's putting heart and soul into every page. His research is meticulous. Everyone is so passionate about it. You can feel it. You feel it on every story, every page, every arc, and that's what's so fun about it. When we're having these meetings, it's like we leave the meeting giddy because we can't believe we're playing in the sandbox with this stuff on the level we're playing it with.
Now, is Conan taking up all your time, or is Jim Zub, the guy who did Wayward, Skull Kickers, do you have anything in the burner there?
So it's been a long time coming. I need a new creator-owned book out there in the market, and it's ludicrous for me to not have a sword and sorcery book, new one, right? With D&D and Conan, two of the biggest properties in fantasy at the same time, there's no reason for me not to have my own. And so I'm developing a sword and sorcery title that I will hopefully be able to announce by end of the year. And I'm very excited for it, and it's going to be compatible if you love Conan, if you love D&D, but there's also some things I can do there that I can't do anywhere else, and that's what's so fun about it, when you've got your own world and your own characters.
Oh, and you did a little D&D with Rick and Morty.
Oh my gosh, right? And that's the Stranger Things graphic novel, getting to dig into the nostalgia of D&D from the 80s, the same era I grew up in, those kids are playing, and remembering what that was like with my older brother and goofing around, and then putting it into the kids from Stranger Things. It was just so much fun. It's been a trip. I feel very, very fortunate that I get to indulge my nostalgia to such an insane degree, and that people are responding to it.
That's fantastic. Well, we could talk all day about everything you've worked on, Thunderbolts and all that stuff, but congratulations on Conan.
Thank you.
Success. We look forward to your new book.
Thanks.
Where can people find you? And
all my social media, all my interviews, all my announcements are at jimzub.com. I've had my own website for 26 years, so my archives go all the way back to my live journal, which I ported over to that website. You can read about my fears when I finished art school, all the way to working for Marvel. it's the weirdest. And I've got tutorials about how to write comic books, how to pitch stories, how to work with editors, what a good art portfolio looks like, everything.
I totally even forgot about you. You were teaching at college.
Yeah, I actually just wrapped up my teaching career in the last few weeks. I took a sabbatical last year, which was supposed to happen in 2020, but then the world spun off its axis.
Yeah.
And then I took it last year, and that was sort of the test drive for I think I'm going to go full freelance again. And here we are. Like literally, my university email shut down last week, and I was like, oh, this is weird. You know, I'm so used to having these two emails constantly going, one for school and one for freelance, and now it's just one. And the work-life balance is I wouldn't say it's relaxing because I picked up a really aggressive convention schedule. A lot of shows I'd always wanted to go to, but I couldn't because of the school schedule I've said yes to. And my wife was like, hey, guess what? The calendar's not Tetris. Don't fill every line. Calm down. Calm down, you know. And so I'm sowing my convention oats all over the world right now, but I'm gonna calm down a little bit in the fall, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for spending time with us.
My pleasure.
And hopefully we can have you on the show again in the near future.
That'd be wonderful.
Maybe just shooting shit and do an episode and talk about movies.
That'd be great. I love it. Thank you.
All right.
All the best.
All right, I am here with Jason Aaron because a Jason needs to talk to a Jason. Welcome to Calgary. How's it been so far?
Great. The show's really huge. Signed tons of Superman and Turtles and did a couple panels. Today I did a panel talking Superman with Dan Slott, which was cool. And eaten some steaks and some pierogies and drank some tiki drinks, so I'm having a good time.
That's fantastic. Now, you've had a heck of a career writing in comics, and it kind of exploded with the other side, moved into Scalped, and now we're on to Bug Wars. Tell us a little bit about Bug Wars and what people can expect from that book. We're about halfway through that right now.
Yeah, Bug Wars is me and the creative team from my Conan the Barbarian run, King Conan. It's me and Mahmoud Asrar and Matt Wilson doing a creator-owned dark fantasy series. I've been describing it as Honey, I Shrunk the Kids meets Game of Thrones. It's like kid shrinks down, goes on an adventure in his backyard where there are these kingdoms of tiny bug-sized warriors who live among the insects. That sounds like it could be a kid's story, but this, again, is like the Game of Thrones version. It's the dark and brutal, violent version of that kind of story. And it's this main kid, Slade Slaymaker, having to go on this adventure in order to literally save his brother's life. So it's this first book is 6 issues, and you explore, again, the setting is a literal backyard. And it's actually my backyard from when I was 10 years old. Exact same yard. The yard I look at is where it's kind of my origin story of where I fell in love with storytelling. There was a point in my life when I was first discovering comics, getting books off the spinner rack, falling in love with comics, playing in that backyard with my Star Wars figures and He-Man toys, or running through the woods, making up stories in my head. Like, I think that's where I really became a comic book writer. So this is set in that actual backyard. I drew the map. It's just divided into various warring kingdoms of where the spider sect live, and where the beetle riders live, and the Anturians, the people who live among the ants. So we explore a lot of that in this first 6-issue story. There'll be more miniseries and one-shots after that continue to flesh out those various kingdoms and other parts of the yard we haven't gotten to yet.
That's fantastic. I was actually going to ask you if there's going to be more Bug Wars at some point. It actually kind of reminded me of a more violent version of those old Sword of Adam comic books.
Yeah, Sword of the Atom was like one of those books that I first pulled off the spinner rack, and I loved that book. If you haven't read it, it's like Adam gets stuck he's like G.I. Joe size, like old school 60s G.I. Joe. He's like 6 inches tall, and he's lost in the jungles in Brazil and discovers this like kingdom of tiny aliens who live among they ride frogs and fight snakes like they're monsters. So I think that was the first kind of story I read like that sparked in my brain, and that was kind of the beginning of Bug Wars. So I think Bug Wars in some sense is a book I've been waiting 40 years to write. It's a book that in some way is, I think, the most personal thing I've ever done, and that it does spring directly from who I was when I was 10 years old, what I was into, and the literal yard I was playing in.
Yeah, I mean, I love the personal nature of this because on the surface, a lot of people won't know that, but my God, like it just makes me want to read more knowing that now, because it kind of is an entryway to knowing the writer as well. I think that's wonderful. Now, you mentioned Conan. Was that a bit of a launching point saying, hey, I want to do more fantasy, which led to Bug Wars?
Yeah, I mean, Conan was a big part of my life at that same age. I was probably about 13 or so when I discovered Robert E. Howard stories in paperback and fell in love with Conan. And I've always been a kind of a nerd of different colors. Like I'm not just a Star Wars guy, or I'm not just a Lord of the Rings guy. Or I like a little bit of everything. But fantasy has always been a big part of that, and I've always loved different fantasy stories, which I think goes back to Conan. So I think finally getting to write Conan in a big way for Marvel was huge for me, and I tried to do the biggest possible Conan story I could, where for 12 issues, practically every issue was a different kind of story, a different point in Conan's life. And then I did a King Conan story after that, which sort of took him, rode him off into the sunset in some sense, and sent him off into the west, where he sort of disappears and is never heard from again. And then I just last year did another Conan story for Savage Sword for Titan.
Oh, fantastic. I was going to ask you about that, because there are definitely certain things you can do at Titan that you probably couldn't have done at Marvel. So is there going to be like something a little more mature about this version?
Yeah, well, it's already out. It came out in a couple issues of Savage Sword magazine last year. So yeah, it's a bit darker. It's an older, wiser version of King Conan. It's the usual story of Conan and a witch, but this sort of takes that in a very different direction. It's a guy who sort of faced a lot of evil sorcerers and sorceresses over the years, and he's learned from those. But he comes to see this particular witch in a different light. So again, it's like a saltier, wiser version of Conan. But yeah, I think I was really proud of the Conan stuff I did at Marvel. There were, we had to tone things down in terms of violence. I think you can see that in Bug Wars right out of the gate of this is us unrestrained, me and Mahmoud both, and pretty quickly Bug Wars opens with these huge battle spreads, and one of them there's a severed head flying at the screen, which is a shot that Mahmoud had drawn in like issue 1 in Conan that we had to take out. So with this, I told him there's nobody who can tell us we have to take something out. So we're making this is a pretty dark, bloody, brutal, adult fantasy story that we're doing in Bug Wars.
Yeah, and I think most Conan readers would love that. I mean, Conan's going through a heck of a resurgence over the last few years, and that started with the Marvel run and carried all the way over to Titan. Now, there's been some recent career stuff that I think is fascinating, because you've been diving into more young readers stuff. I remember Sea of Stars is something I recommend in my own store. Outside of a couple F-bombs, I think it's very approachable. There's a couple. I was surprised because it feels so like young adults. It's so appropriate for kids. This wonderful adventure of this kid lost in space.
Yeah, I mean, that one it's meant to be kind of two stories in one. There's a story what this kid is going through. This kid and his dad get separated in deep space, and the kid's going through this very kind of wild, colorful, happy Miyazaki story where he's swimming through space with a talking space dolphin, having a great time. Meanwhile, his dad is going through hell, trying to find his son, trying to save his son. So you get these two different stories interwoven together.
Turtles has been your big one right now. It looks like it's it's going to be a fairly long run, because I was expecting maybe 6 issues out of you and then move on, but it really feels like you're in love with Turtles and have a long plan for that.
I love those characters. I fell in love with those characters again when I was a kid, 40 years ago when they first started. I'm really proud of what I've been able to do on this book and worked with some incredible artists. This is a 12-issue story, so we're getting close to the end of that one.
Okay.
Which was always the plan. This is always a very particular story with a beginning, a middle, and end. Where we're at right now with Juan Ferreira, who's drawing the book, who's phenomenal. I think the work he's doing on that is the best stuff he's ever done in his career. He's leveled up in a giant way from a guy who was already incredibly good. What he's doing now, I think, is just really amazing. So I'm having a blast working with him on what is the arc we're doing right now is NYC versus TMNT. So it's the Turtles coming back to try to save New York City and realizing they're public enemy number one in the city that they love.
Now, the one that kind of stands out to me as of late, the most unobvious Jason Aaron book that I've ever seen is Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Dime, and it was a wonderful little one-off and Marvel really hasn't worked with those characters until these what ifs, but it kind of kicked off Marvel's era with Disney. And what was it like working on that character? What brought that on?
Oh yeah, it was huge for me. As I kind of wrote in that issue, my history and relationship with those characters, like I came to Scrooge through Don Rose's work, through meeting him at comic conventions. He always comes to Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City, where I live. So I met him there, bought those incredible Fantagraphics hardcovers, collect his entire Uncle Scrooge library. I read all those with my son when he was little. Over the years, we'd read them all at bedtime. We read every single Don Rosa story together. And he's almost 20 now, and he and I still talk about those stories and how much we love them. So I would, doing a podcast like this, people would ask, what's the one character you haven't written that you'd love to write? And Uncle Scrooge was usually my answer. Mm-hmm. Well, at one point, Dan Buckley, president of Marvel, was listening to that podcast, heard that. He went and made it happen with the Panini, the Italian publishers, who kind of the one people in the world still publishing new Uncle Scrooge stories, Donald Duck. Those characters are still really huge over there, so we just deal with them. Just dealt with them to make that Uncle Scrooge special happen. They're responsible for kind of all the Duck stuff you'd seen Marvel doing since then. So it was a good opportunity that came along, that this weird random thing, because Dan Buckley happened to be listening to a podcast I was on. So it was kind of done, again, just all of it went back to my love of Don Rosa and how amazing his stories are.
I love that story. Now, Scalped was optioned, wasn't it? Is there any movement on that?
No, they shot a pilot, many years ago that didn't go anywhere. That was, Scalped was a Vertigo book, so that's already, those rights are already held by Warner Brothers as a part of that. So the pilot was shot by WGN, which was a cool experience, and the cast of the pilot was stellar. It was like the absolute A-list of Native American actors. But yeah, it didn't go anywhere at the time, so nothing happening there at the moment. But the book did just get new printings in omnibus format. Volume 1 came out last year, Volume 2 came out this year, so you can now buy the entire 60-issue story in omnibus. And I went back and reread all those issues for the first time, wrote a new introduction. Everything is arranged the way I would like it to be read. We put a bunch of extras in the back, including stuff I had forgotten about, like my original pitch, which was a very different kind of story than what we ended up doing. The first issue script, a bunch of unseen stuff by R.M. Guerra, the artist. So it's like kind of a treasure trove for any Scalped fans.
Oh, fantastic. I love that series, and it was kind of the gateway drug to your work for me. I had one more question, and it just popped out of my brain, and and it was actually no, nope, Thor. There, popped in when those first few issues of your Thor run came out. I was kind of stricken by them because it felt more like a heavy metal story than it ever did a Marvel story, which I really loved. And was something you were going for at the time?
Oh yeah, I definitely wanted to have like a heavy metal vibe, especially working with that side. I wanted this to feel like the kind of Thor you'd see spray painted on the side of a van, and just leading into all the things that are unique and particular about Thor that make him different from Cap and Spider-Man and every other character in the Marvel universe. The fact he's lived so long, he's the god of the Vikings. He's going to be around for eons after all the other Avengers are gone. He's a god. He's the most prominent god in the Marvel universe. Exploring what that means. He's got this magic hammer that every day either proves or disproves his worthiness, whatever that means, and how he relates to that, what that means to him, the effect that has on him. So just from the get-go, I was trying to do a story that addressed all that in as big a way as possible, and something that was to me very Kirby, like very big and cosmic, but also really dark and gritty. So it's like a part sci-fi story, part horror story, part exploration of godhood. From issue one up through. I think I wrote like 101 issues.
Yeah, it was all
told. Like those themes kind of never changed.
Do you have like a big run on something like that in mind again?
Well, yeah, Absolute Superman. I hope to be on that for a long time.
I hope so too. That Absolute line is been from issue to issue, from Superman to Batman to Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, Flash. Like so far, it's been very well curated, very well thought out, and it's been a smash at my store. Everybody loves these things so far.
Good, thanks. Yeah, I think everybody working on the books is having fun. We've all been kind of doing our own thing in our different books, and now we've been having more of the conversations of how do we build this as a cohesive universe, and what does that mean? What does that look like? How do we start to cross the threads together between our different books? And you'll see, you get the first hint of that in the Free Comic Book Day special, which comes out in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Written by Jeff Lemire, so that's an important piece of the puzzle. And there'll be some books come out later this year that are the next part of that. As we all continue to tell the stories, our own stories about Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and Flash and everyone, like you'll start to see a bigger narrative unfold about this universe in particular.
How much interference has there been editorial-wise? Because these are company-controlled characters that they're fairly precious about, but they're very fresh takes, and it really seems like they've had a hands-off approach and kind of letting you do what you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all had a very free hand of, reimagining these characters the way we see them. I mean, I know the Superman stuff I've wanted to do, there was no pushback on any of it. Once I said this is what the story is about, this is who this guy is, this is how it's similar to the Superman we know, this is how it's radically different. I think everybody's always been excited about that. That's sort of the MO of what Absolute is. Like, it's not just about let's take these characters and make them darker and grittier and grimier. It's like let's look at what these characters mean, like what they are at their core, at their heart, and how do you do that in a way that feels more relevant to today, as if these characters were created in the here and now. What would you do differently if you were Batman never existed until this moment? Like, you were making him up. How's he going to look different than he did, in the 1940s? How's Superman going to look different than he did in 1939? That's been the guiding point, like the whole way. And DC's been very excited about that and very supportive. I think everything we've wanted to do on all these books.
Yeah, the one thing I think the mainstream superhero books and Superman in general, it somehow has kind of lost that ultimate refugee story, which is something you've really embraced in your version.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to go back and redo the most iconic origin in the history of comics, and redo the greatest mythology of any superhero. But again, to do that in a way that reflects modern sensibilities. Doing an immigrant story today is different than what that meant to Siegel and Schuster in the 30s. Two young Jewish kids who were the sons of immigrants living in Cleveland. Like they were doing a very kind of idolized, iconic Moses story, right? Like this story is the same heart goes into it, but the character's journey comes out much darker and harder and edgier. And he's facing challenges that the Superman of the past never had to face.
Yeah. Well, I could go on forever talking about this kind of stuff. I'll give you the opportunity to plug anything you got coming up, or at least tease it. And where can people find you on your social medias?
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered everything I've got announced that I can plug. Like I said,
fair enough. NDAs.
You'll see. I'll have another DC project. There's another thing I'm working on with Marvel. It's a thing I'm working on for a third company. I'll have another creator on book. Be more Bug Wars. In terms of where to find me, I'm here and there on the interwebs. I think the best way to keep up with me is my Substack newsletter, which I post periodically of just what I've got coming out, where I'm going to be, what I'm up to. I think that's always the best way to keep track of what I'm doing.
Perfect. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I hope you enjoy the rest of the Calgary Expo. It's been a sheer pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thank you.
Earth 67.
Whoa.
What the?
I'm Spider-Man. I need you to come with me.
Who the heck are you?
I just told you that. Listen. I'm from the future.
How dare you point at me?
You were pointing first.
Rude to point.
You're being very rude. You're not even believing what I'm saying.
Which one pointed first?
Spider-Man pointed first. Obviously. You're pointing at me right now as you say that. Look at you.
I'm
Look
just
at your
pointing
finger.
at your pointing.
Look at your finger right
different
now.
than normal pointing.
You are pointing.
You haven't seen
You're
pointing
accusing
until I
me
get
of
through
pointing
with you, and then
while
you'll
you're.
know.
All right, I am sitting here with Dan Slott, and we're going to start off with your fascination with characters with red and blue.
Well, I always did like the Atom.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? The Atom's great. Actually, that's a character maybe you should hit next. Now that you're at DC.
I picked the wrong time to put gum into my mouth. One second.
I'll edit that out.
This is weird. The weirdest thing about going from Spider-Man to Superman is being in the mindset of a character whose primal motivation is guilt and is self-effacing, who full of doubts, who just does tries to cover it all up with humor. Going to this character who kind of already knows he's all powerful and he's kind of beyond it, and he's all about everything about him in the hierarchy of needs has kind of been filled, and that means he can think about you, and he wants to make everything better for you, and he cares about you, everyone. It's this character who's so completely selfless, and I feel good writing Superman stories. You feel slightly neurotic writing Spider-Man stories. It's a nice mental place to be. He's just so nice. Everyone's like, oh, but he can kick ass and be, but that's more about, he can do these incredible things. These things that are mythic and legendary. The guy can pick up an ocean liner and fly it to the moon, but that's not what he's about. We live in this day and age where way too many people would rather have a Homelander or an Omni-Man. And no, you're not getting it. It's not the magic of Superman isn't that he has all this great power. It's that he has all this great power, and yet he doesn't use it to try to empower himself. He has all this great power, and he wants to help. He just wants everything better for everybody else. He has these gifts, and he's been taught to share them. There's no other character like him in the world. And there's no other, it's not just that he's the first superhero, it's that he's the best of us. It's so awesome to get to work on this legacy character.
Now, the similarities between the books that you've written, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, and now Superman, they have rich cast of characters, not just your title characters, but the supporting cast of these really wonderful characters. And is that something you're going to explore within Superman Unlimited?
Oh, absolutely. Superman Unlimited is really going to focus, it's going to drill down on Superman and his family, which is Lois, Jonathan, his son, and Crypto. They have this perfect family. But then there's his extended family, his Daily Planet staffers, with Jimmy and Kat and Ron and Steve Lombard. And Perry's now mayor of Metropolis. That's kind of fun. But there's also his super friends, the friends he's made along the way on his adventures, whether they're Justice Leaguers or the Guardian, or we're going to have one of the fun things for me is I've been exclusive to Marvel for like 20 years. So I've got this like dam building up ready to burst of 20 years of stuff I've always wanted to do in a Superman comic, in a DC comic. One of our new cast members who's going to do the IT for the Daily Planet her name is Tina, and Tina is the goddaughter of Solivar, the king of Gorilla City.
Oh, lovely.
So we're going to have someone from Gorilla City like in the Daily Planet. That's going to be fun. The fact I can use anything from the DCU, that anybody can suddenly show up. We're going to focus on the Daily Planet with the same way how Superman is almost the idealistic version of a superhero. When you read certain fiction or watch certain shows or TV, you see these idealized versions of cops, of firemen, of this and that. The West Wing, how government should work. Yeah, you see these things that you're laughing at it now because it's idealized. It's these perfect versions. I want you to see that with the Daily Planet staff. I want them to be like a Capra level of what journalist is heroes. I want F. Murray. I want Walter Cronkite. I want Woodward and Bernstein. I want these kind of journalists that are larger than life. And who are they going to do battle with? They're going to do battle with journalists that aren't.
I love that. That speaks true to what's going on today and reminding us who heroes really are.
One of their regular foils will be Jack Ryder.
Oh, the Creeper.
The Creeper. And he has his own podcast called No Laughing Matter, where he delves into strange conspiracy theories and information that he's figured out like on the day and rushing to print. So things that he hasn't like double checked or triple checked, he's just getting the news out there, and he might be getting it all wrong. And that you'll see that the Creeper will be a thorn in Superman's side every now and then.
That's fantastic. Now, will this mesh with the other two titles, Superman and Action Comics, or will they kind of remain separate entities?
We are all a united front on the core three titles. Action Comics by Mark Waid on the writing side will be the adventures of young Clark growing up in Smallville, learning to use his powers, and being Superboy. And then Josh's book, Superman, right now there's this incredible momentum at DC Comics with their All-In initiative, and the absolute characters. There's this feeling like big things are coming, and Scott Snyder and company have come up with all kinds of plans, and Josh is woven into that. So this is a Superman book that's wired into that modern day DC continuity, that's going places, and it's going to go at times into the future with the Legion and what's going on there. I don't want to spoil things. Our book is Superman firmly in the present. Our book, where the other book might be for readers who are really invested into these DC mysteries of what's happening to Booster Gold and what's going on with the Fourth World and all kinds of craziness. Our book is, if you went out and saw this amazing new movie by James Gunn and you are super excited and you want to read about Superman, and you may never have read a Superman comic in your life. You may have never read a DC comic in your life. You may never have read a comic book in your life. You can pick this up. You can jump in right now with Superman Unlimited #1 and have a clean, easy, this is everything you need to know about Superman. You can read it any age, and young or old. Everyone can just pick this book up if you've never read a comic before, or if you read like a billion comics. This is for you. It's an entry-level jump-on book, but at the same time, it's also going to have major events that happen in it that will be reflected throughout the DC universe. So one of the things that's happening right off the bat is the Daily Planet is expanding in a way it never has before. And there will now be a Daily Planet branch in every city in the DC universe. Every city will have that planet in their skyline. And it'll be unique to their skyline. Like the one in Ivy Town might be covered in ivy. Right. The one in Themyscira might be on a tall Greek plinth high up into the sky. And of course it would have an all-female staff because no one else is getting on that island.
That's right.
The one in Gotham is going to be nicknamed the Daily Plant because someone keeps stealing the E. Because it's Gotham. No matter what they try to protect it with. That's going to be run, Jimmy Olsen is going to take over the Gotham plant.
This sounds fantastic. How long is your run going to be?
I'm just going to keep writing it.
Oh, that's the best news I've heard all day.
I'm just going to keep going and going and going. Superman is one of these characters who he's on my Mount Rushmore of characters I've always wanted to write. And DC Comics knocked on my door now 3 times to offer me Superman. And with the first time, it was a little, I'm just starting Spider-Man. And with the second time, it's like, there are some big Spider-Man milestones and stories I still wanted to hit. And this third time, it was like, I broke. I can't turn away Superman a third time. So I just had to take this, and I am having a blast working on it. When I was a kid, there was in my school library, my elementary school library, there was this big hardcover book. And this is before I'd ever bought any comics. It was called Superman from the 30s to the 70s. And if you can remember back like in elementary school in the library, how there'd be that card in the book, and it would have the name of whoever checked it out last and the stamp. The entire card read Danny Slott, Danny Slott, Danny Slott, Danny Slott, Danny Slott, with all the stamps so I wouldn't get it overdue. I was the only person. This book lived in my house. It is a thrill to get to write this iconic a character. Like when I was working on Spider-Man, the minute it became a full-time gig, this kind of sensor went off in my head where I could be walking anywhere down the street, and if someone had a Spider-Man umbrella or a Spider-Man t-shirt or a kid had a Spider-Man action figure, I would spot it. I'm like, oh my God, Spider-Man is everywhere.
Yeah.
And now it's very much that with Superman, and like just realizing how, and you'd have to be brain dead to not notice all the Batman insignias going around in your world. But, oh my God, the Superman stuff's out there too. It's everywhere.
It is. It's been there forever. It's made its mark, and you're going to make your mark on that book just like you did with Spider-Man.
I'm hoping, but it's going to be a lot easier than you think, because with Rafa Albuquerque on the art and Marcello working on the colors, Dave on letters, and Paul and Jillian on editorial, we have this really strong team, and we're all kind of rowing in the same direction. We all kind of know what we want our Superman to be. When I first got the assignment, I went around looking anywhere I could online. I wanted a really good Superman action figure to be on my desk, like looking over me, and I could not find one where he was smiling. Every Superman action figure, he was just like scowling, or grunting, or like he was in mid-battle. And I'm like, that's not my Superman. And I finally found one with a slight grin, and I'm like, oh, thank God. And like that. And if you look at like our second cover of Superman Unlimited, it's one of the things we're doing is we're just bombarding Earth with kryptonite. So kryptonite's going to be readily available for even the lowest level thug in Metropolis. Any like guy from Intergang is robbing a bank. They see a streak of red go through the sky. They pop out their clip of bullets and snap in their new clip of kryptonite bullets they have just in case. So he's still Superman. He can still change the orbit of the moon. He can still do all these incredible things, but his Achilles heel is much more exposed, and he's going to have to try harder and work harder to get to win. Where was I going with that? I was going somewhere cool with this. Where was I going?
Well, it sounds like you're evening the playing field.
What I was saying is our cover for issue 2 is it's Superman is back to the wall, and you see all these hands reaching in, and one's got a couple guys have kryptonite knives, one guy's got kryptonite brass knuckles, which are technically kryptonite knuckles because they're a metal, but they're like, and Superman is all like beaten up, and his costume's ripped, and he's got his fists up, he's ready to go, and the thing that sells it is he's smiling. And it's not a psychotic, I'm gonna kill you smile. It's the, I got this. Come on, round 2, come on. I'm Superman. Even though there's all this kryptonite and things are gonna be harder for him, he's a farm boy from Kansas, and he doesn't mind a little hard work. And that's my Superman.
Well, I don't want to spoil how it got there and what those ramifications are going to be. Part of my brain is going, well, wait a minute, didn't that give Lex Luthor cancer? Is that going to be a big plot point at some point?
That will be answered in Superman Unlimited number 3.
There we go. No more spoilers on that front. Before I let you go, any little side projects you got coming up? We talked a little bit about Doctor Who before we started recording, and
I'm now I'm not exclusive to DC, so it's not quite I've jumped ship from Marvel to DC.
Right.
But Superman Unlimited is my book, and that is my priority. And for probably the next 6 months, I am not looking. I mean, I've gotten a lot of sweet offers, and I've had to say no because I just want to keep writing this book, get it far ahead of schedule, and then when I'm in a comfortable spot and can do a second project, there are a lot of options, and Titan has made it clear that they would love it if I do more Doctor Who.
Oh, fair enough. Well, Summer Superman is out. DC All In May 3rd. Later, I think it's late May for Superman Unlimited.
Yeah, it's Free Comic Book Day, May 3rd. There will be a Superman Unlimited free comic you can pick up and try to see if we're the team for you. And May 21st is our first official issue.
Fantastic. Where can people find you, and how can they get a hold of you on social media?
Blue Sky or Threads are the best way to try to reach me.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for having this conversation with us. We very much appreciate it.
Anytime. Glad to come.
That's going to do it for this week's episode, part 1 of our coverage from Calgary Expo 2025. On the next installment, we will be going into Artist Alley and talking to a lot of young up-and-coming creators and what books they've got and how you can get a hold of them. There's some really great stuff there, so please give that one a listen as well. Follow us on our social media at Invasion Remake on X and Blue Sky. Invasion of the Remake on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, a whole lot of other places. And of course, you can email us at invasionofTheRemake@gmail.com. Go to our website, invasionofTheRemake.wixsite.com/podcast. And over there, you'll find all of our archives from the last decade and a handy dandy little button that'll take you to our TeePublic store, our merch store. And you can find t-shirts, mugs, posters, hoodies, all sorts of cool stuff. And with every purchase, you're helping keep this show free. So get yourself something cool and something comfortable and, maybe even a tank top for the hot summer days coming up. All right. Well, that's it for this week. For Trish and myself, we are out of here.
You know, Spidey, I've always wanted to experience real web slinging.
And I've always wanted to be appreciated as a real hero. It seems you've made me into one. Thanks.
Hey, don't mention it. After saving all of reality, where do you go from here?
To find Mary Jane. My Mary Jane. I've been told she's still alive. I can't wait to see her. You know, for so long, I've thought that I never got any breaks. But now, after all I've been through, for once, I like my life. I like myself. And for the first time ever, I wouldn't want to change anything about me.
Gee, you're definitely not the same guy I've been writing about all these years.
Well, Stan, we all have to grow up sometime, I suppose. Even us, characters of fiction.